As John O'Donohue writes in his beautiful book, Anamkara, love is absolutely vital for a human life, for love alone can awaken what is divine within you. In love, you grow and come home to yourself. When you learn to love and to let yourself be loved, you come home to the hearth of your own spirit. The hearth of your own spirit. Interesting how hearth and heart sound very much alike, don't they? Well, this month and this time right now is not only the season on nonviolence it began on January 30th and concludes on April 4th. It was begun by Arun Gandhi, Gandhi's grandson, and the AGNT, which we're a part as well. So it's not only the season for nonviolence, but it's also Black History Month. And there's so much in common here. It seems that Gandhi, as you know, taught ahimsa to the Indian people because they were being oppressed by the British Empire at that time. Fortunately, things have changed a lot since then. But Gandhi taught the people ahimsa, which is nonviolence. It is not against anything. It is standing up, owning your own spirituality, and using that force of love to make a difference in the world, but first in their own experience. Well, it turns out that Howard Thurman met with him. He brought a group over to India to have some brotherhood and some understanding. And he learned a lot from Gandhi about these principles. And when he came back to the United States, he shared these principles with Rufus Jones and Martin Luther King Jr., and it was all based on real love and real wisdom and real compassion and using the power of God within. And we know that there isn't anything that cannot be changed, first internally and then externally, by identifying with and embracing and utilizing the power of God's love within us. And so these are beautiful times. It's taken way too long for the human consciousness as a whole to emerge into this beautiful awareness that indeed we are all one and that love is something we share, and this is a power that's greater than anything else in the world. So we don't try and change conditions out here. It's never worked. It's like rearranging the furniture. We know we need to begin within the individual. And as Howard Thurman knew, we needed to work within first. He was a Baptist minister, a theologian, an author, a wonderful professor. He understood that even though many people were working globally, that we needed to begin right here where we are right now and make the changes within ourselves and stand up in our truth and stand up in our love and join hands and hearts together to make a difference in our world. We come from a long line of love, all of us. We come from the very heart of God itself. Each one of us, without exception, was formed from the very fiber, the very fabric of God itself. There's only one life. That's God's life. It's whole, complete, and perfect. That life is your life and my life now. There is no other life from which to be formed. What a relief. There's one power. It's a power for good. And we can use it any way we choose because we were given the privilege of choice. And sometimes we use this beautiful power for good for wonderful good. Other times we inadvertently misuse it and we create real problems for ourselves and for the world as well. Now, we didn't create all the problems in the world. Thank you very much. Let's be relieved of that. But we have an opportunity, a right, and a responsibility to stand in love, no matter what else may be going on out there, and not believe all of that nincompoopery. That's what it is. and instead come back into the reality of the love that we are. Having been created out of the one life, everyone is divine. I was in Florida last week. Didn't miss a Sunday. Left Sunday evening. Just got back Thursday night. It was warm down there. It's not warm here. That's all right. I'd rather be here, but a little time down there is good too. And it was interesting. I love practicing our teaching everywhere I go. It's just delicious. And it's so much fun to be looking for the divine within every person I see. It's really fun. And I have great conversations on airplanes this way too. It's just beautiful. What a difference it makes to look in the eyes of the people that I might be passing by and say, oh, I know who you are. I don't usually say that out loud. Wouldn't that be fun? I might try that sometime. It's a wonderful thing to feel that divine connection with what someone else may consider a perfect stranger. I like that phrase. Wouldn't it be nice to realize that strangers are perfect? I wonder how that ever started anyway. Maybe somebody really knew that God abides within each one of us, and let's find it there. Let's celebrate it. Let's open our hearts to each other and discover who we really are and how we are joined together, because today is all about conscious, creative relationships. We all have relationships. Nobody doesn't have relationships, but they're not always conscious, are they? And they're not always healthfully creative, are they? So we have an opportunity, whether we're adoring one other person or delighting in our grandchildren or loving all of humanity, we're touching that center of divine love that connects us all. And it connects us effortlessly with every sentient being as soon as we open our hearts to it. And so once we understand that love is indeed a synonym for God, we learned that a long time ago. Remember? Probably in Sunday school. Ours is Fun Day School. That love is the presence that motivates us, that connects us, and we learn that we can distribute that love to others. We become little loving, compassionate distribution centers of God's love. The hands and feet, the hearts, the minds, the mouths of God itself. Like my beloved friend Jenny Barnum. I haven't done this for a long time. It just occurred to me. Are you ready for Jenny's rap song? Jenny was, I don't know, she never told her age and we didn't ask. Jenny Barnum was my beloved Earl Barney's widow. And I haven't seen her in a long time, but she was always writing music, and she was our music director in the center where we were. And so she kept writing songs. She would write them for me to sing when we'd go to the Institute when Ernest Holmes was up there when we were teenagers, and we'd sing these songs. But she called me one day when she was in her 80s or 90s, I don't know. She said, Maxine, I wrote a new song. It's a rap song. And so some of you know it, so I'll need you to snap, because I don't snap that well. Okay? That's good. We are the fingers and the toes and the eyes and the nose of God. We are the hands and the feet and the mouth, I repeat, of God. We think we are an entity, separate and apart, and yet our real identity is written in our heart. We are the fingers and the toes and the eyes and the nose, the hands and the feet and the mouth, I repeat, of God. Of God. I hadn't thought about that in a long time. So we get to be the divine distributors of divine love. And so when we are no longer seeking love outside of ourselves in all the wrong places, like trying to fill up that empty soul hole, and we find it within ourselves, because that's where it's always been, then the joys really begin, and so do the challenges. Because not every relationship is a healthy, hearty relationship. Sometimes two people come together and they feel like neither one is whole, but a half and a half together, you multiplied that and you get less. So it's not as though we're looking for someone to complete us. I've done many, many weddings, and we've never used that phrase. You complete me. No, we want one whole person coming together with another whole person, and then you get a third. What you get is that beautiful relationship that is like an umbrella over each of them, both of them, and keeping them in perfect harmony with life and with each other. But a whole lot of relationships don't have a whole lot of harmony. Have you ever heard that? So today I thought we'd talk a little bit about how we can change that, because conscious creative relationships require attention. It doesn't have to be hard work, but it needs to be mindfulness. Mutual respect, mutual encouragement, those are the cornerstones of a healthy relationship. I want to take responsibility. I want each person to take responsibility for co-creating that relationship. And honoring the 4 agreements of Don Miguel Ruiz is a good way to begin. Everybody know the 4 agreements? Okay. It's be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. And always do your best. So starting with be impeccable with your word. How about speaking to one another as you would speak to your most cherished friend? Get your feet off the table. That is not something that you would, I'm talking about having a relationship with your children as well as your spouses, your brothers, your sisters, your friends. Think about who you're speaking with. This is a presence of God in beautiful human form. So let's speak appropriately and choose to use I messages as we were taught instead of the you messages, you. Like rather than when you come home and there's dirty laundry in the living room floor. You didn't have that happen recently, did you? Instead of, you slob. It would be better to say, I'm just not comfortable with dirty laundry on the living room floor. That's a little extreme, but I like to use those examples. Don't take anything personally. Oh, that's easy to do, right? Not. Yeah, no. Imagine hearing something that you might have in the past reacted to, and instead just decide there's no reason to react, that it really didn't have anything to do with you at all. Oh, I can remember my second center in Palo Alto. I was in, the city next door is Mountain View, and I had left the office and I was going to lunch quickly, doing an errand, getting ready to come back, and I'm clicking along in my high heels, getting where I need to go. And there was a group of young people at the bus station. And as I walked by, one of them said, "You sexy old dame." And I went, old? And did my best not to take it personally. When people say things, we can choose to be offended or amused or even feel loved. Isn't that something? We get to choose our response. We get to choose whether we are reacting or responding. And I've heard people say, but I have such thin skin. What does that have to do with anything? How thin could someone's skin be? I mean, all the organs and everything are still kept inside. It can't be that thin. Let's get over ourselves a little bit. The healthiest relationships are formed when we do our best to respond and not take things personally and react. Here's another one. Don't make assumptions. Oh, is this a good one with relationships or what? You know, I think about how we use our creative imaginations in a reverse way sometimes, and it doesn't help anybody. Like the woman who was very, very worried about her teenage son who was out beyond curfew and began imagining, you know, all kind of, shall I call, you know. He was fine, but she wasn't. And when he got home, he wasn't fine. We begin to imagine the worst. Anybody here ever done that? And it's not helpful. Because we really have a creative imagination. Let's use it for good. Let's not assume the worst. Let's assume the best. Let's not assume at all. Let's come back into our loving center, where we see ourselves, our loved ones, our world, the way that God created it, whole, complete, and perfect. And know that there's much, much power in that place of love and of understanding that everything is working together for the good. That's not airy-fairy. That's not Pollyanna, but you know there's nothing wrong with Pollyanna. I don't know why people somehow decry the Pollyanna attitude. Pollyanna made a difference in everybody's lives because she could see the good and she remained positive no matter what. I think you and I can take a lesson from her. Always do your best. You know, we try to do the other three. And we do. We implement these wonderful attitudes and ways of being by being impeccable with our word in our world, saying what we mean and meaning what we say, and keeping our conversation in heaven. Make it high, make it true, make it beautiful. And then we wish not to take things personally, and sometimes that's easy to do and sometimes it's not, but we keep working at it. And then don't make assumptions, but at the end of the day, let's look back and say, I did my best. I did my best. Let's be really gentle with ourselves as we're learning to form healthier relationships with ourselves and with our beloveds and with those perfect strangers as well. Just cut yourself and all others a little slack. Be peaceful about it. So in conscious relationships, people are caring and mindful. They see love as the context and all else as contents. They welcome opportunities for growth. That's really why we get each other. Did you know that? Yeah. Years ago, I had a couple of friends. She was a master social worker and he was a psychiatrist. And we had a group of friends together at one time, and he said, you know, when people first meet and they fall in love, by the way, you don't fall in love. You fall into an open sewer, but you don't fall in love. You know, fly up to it maybe. But he said when people meet and they find that, oh, they're so attractive and they're so cute, and they get together and then they find out about all the things they have to work out. He says, how attractive they are and how cute they are, that's nature's dirty trick. It's to bring the two people together so they can start working on themselves. They're mirrors to, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? We are mirrors to one another. And if we are conscious, caring beings ourselves, we're going to utilize those opportunities to see the things that we wouldn't have been able to see if we were just home playing solitaire every night. We get each other very much on purpose. We're drawn together to love each other, to see what's beautiful in each other, and to work on our own stuff. So it's a beautiful thing to come together in a consciousness of open-hearted, open-minded, conscious creativity. Love is not blind. It sees more, not less. And because it is able to see more, it is willing to see less. We can overlook the things that are the small stuff and even eventually say, oh, isn't he cute doing that? We can look deeply into each other's hearts. And as we're practicing in our own personal relationships, then it extends out and we begin to live this beautiful life with every other person we encounter. Whether it's at work or walking down the street or at church or in a synagogue or under a tree, we see someone else and we feel our unity with them. And in feeling that unity, there is such a sense of peace and such a sense of joy and such an overwhelming awareness that we all belong here together. We all belong here together and we all have our work to do. I'm very, very willing to do my work. I want to do my work every day. And it's not difficult. It is not a drudgery. It's a joy. It's illuminating. I get to see the things within myself that I thought I had healed a long time ago, and maybe they're still kind of circling. Because I'm ready to get to the root of it, to the root ball of it, and get it healed completely. It isn't until I'm healed completely that I can really have the most flourishing, beautiful relationship. So I can have some pretty good ones in the meantime. But let's continue to do our work. We don't have to wait until everything's perfect, but we continue, please, we continue to bring heaven onto earth. And the way we do that is to be conscious and to be loving and truly caring and compassionate. So in creative, conscious relationships, people are not restricted by the past. Principle, as Thomas Troward says, is not bound by precedent. Just because it was like that in the last relationship and 10 years ago doesn't mean it's going to be like that today because I am making the difference, right? And in these conscious creative relationships, people don't need to entertain false beliefs about themselves or about each other. They work together to make new possibilities. That's the creative part. They remember that divine love is the foundation of their lives and of the relationship itself. And they're willing to enter into a larger field. You know where I'm going with this now, don't you? This is Rumi. Out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. Rumi in the 13th century, that beautiful Persian mystic and poet. And if you want to learn more about creative, conscious, healthy relationships, come Wednesday night for Wednesday Night Live. From 7 to 8 o'clock, Reverend Mike and I hold forth. And this Wednesday, we're doing a He Said, She Said about how to create healthy relationships. Yeah, come on down. Take a lesson. Maybe we could even learn something from you. We're always ready to do that. So we learn to bridge the gap between ourselves and others who may experience that delusion of separation. Did you know there are people in the world who are deludedly thinking that they are separate from their source and from each of us? Can you even imagine? Do you ever feel separate yourself? Well, we can get over that. It's time for us to get over that. We dive deeply into our unity. It's a sweet place to be. And we desire only good for others until we finally realize, oh, there are no others. There are false barriers that are then dissolved, and then deep alliances are born. That is the sweetest, most satisfying thing in the world. So we are rediscovering the essence of love as our quintessential self. It is the reality. God is love. God created you and me. You and I are love. That happens to be the greatest truth that we can begin to embrace. You are a conscious creative center of divine love. So let's let this presence be present in every connection that we experience all day long. So now, no matter how healthy the relationships are that you've created, you might begin to allow them to become even healthier. Will you say with me, I give my love wisely. I give my love freely. I accept love wholeheartedly. I accept love gratefully. I am a recirculating fountain of love. And so, my beloveds, beginneth our lesson. Thank you.